How's it going, Vasters? Mr. Puppeteer here. Getting into something a little bit different today. Put the PC3 away. I've got the K2600 out. I've started it up. Hope you're all going well. It's been quite some time since we've done a tutorial and since we've had something up and running. If you're up there, please sign into the chat and yeah, let me know if you've got any questions as we're going along. I'm assuming that for this tutorial that you have gone and done the live mode tutorial over at kunker.com. I've put a tutorial up there in the classroom quite some time ago which shows how to configure and plug in everything that you need in the K2600 to get it all going. So hang on, I'll just... I've just lost, just give me a sec, I've just lost a bit of my screen there. Come on. That looks pretty good. So yeah, look where things are at. Hopefully I'm going to try and get a few more tutorials done in the near future. I am very busy at the moment. I'm back at uni studying, so that's taking up a lot of time, and I've got a lovely family I like to spend some time with, so they also take up a bit of time. And I've also got some other projects on the side which are keeping me very busy. So we'll see how we go. Hopefully every now and then we're going to get in and get a bit of a tutorial happening and get some stuff. If you've got any ideas for tutorial, please pass them along to me over at Kunker. I'm pretty active over there, and that's sort of where I do a lot of my planning for the next tutorials, is over there, based on what you guys want. What do you want to hear? What sort of stuff do you want to learn? Right, I'm going to get stuck into the tutorial now. Basically, we're going to go through a few of the different live mode, a few tricks, I guess, about how you can use live mode, how to get it going once you've plugged everything in. So just a description of what I'm doing tonight, because just so you know where I've plugged everything in, I'll take you through the master page in a second. But I've basically got an iPod, which is this little, you see the little iPod here. So the iPod's going to be playing some music for us. So I'm going to get that going in a bit, and also I've got some it's actually one of the previous videos I've done. I've got the audio from that as well, to show you some different techniques that you can use with stuff that's not music. So what I've done is I've got that plugged into the analog inputs. This is the TRS inputs in the back of the K2600, and that's where we're taking our live mode signal from. You can equally take it from the optical inputs or the AES EBU inputs or the balanced inputs, or you can even take it from DMTI by setting the return channel, and I'll just show you how to do that. So we're just going to go into the master page, and most of the live mode stuff is actually controlled from in this sample page. So if you can set this to analog or digital. If you're in digital, you've got three. If you have the DMTI option installed, you've got three options. You've got return, and this is what I was talking about with the DMTI. So if you've got a digital signal coming in your DMTI, on your outputs, the DMTI out of the K2600, there's actually a pair of stereo return channels that come back, and you can use this to pipe into the sampling option, and that's what this return refers to. So this is the return channels from the DMTI. Now they are set to channel 1 and 2 on the DMTI on the first output, so they're the same. They're going to be replicated as ADAT 1 and 2, and also the AES EBU 1 and 2. So that's where that is. Internal is of course your internal source, and external means we're getting something from outside coming into the K2600, and that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to set this on analog because this is what we want to use, and you can set all these up. Now the other important parameter is this one here called live in. You need to make sure that's set to live in, otherwise nothing's going to work. While we're here, we'll go and have a look at there's also his master 2 page, which is actually can be quite important for quite a few things. Is where you set your vocoder. It's you got your view, but these dither and digital output lengths are important, and also these other ones here. These do affect your digital sections on your sample page, so they actually work in conjunction with each other. So if something's not working, have a look at your master 2 page as well, because that could be quite important. Anyway, so let's go back to the sampling mode. Let's just get some music happening. Let me just start up the alright, so I'm playing the music that we're using tonight is some of mine. The reason for that is not because I think it's particularly great or anything, but YouTube and Ustream both have some pretty stringent copyright requirements. So if I use my own music, I'd have to worry about that because I've written it on the copyright holder. No dramas whatsoever. So you can see straight away we've got a signal coming in here, and what I like to do is just to do an initialization. So let's just go back to sampling stereo. Let's just record 30 odd seconds of sample in here. The reason I do this is just to make sure that there's something in the sampling buffer. It's not. I've found that you don't always have to do it, but I've had a couple of times where it's sort of glitched out a little bit, and I thought that could have been the reason why. So when I've done this, it tends to always work properly. So we'll just fill up the sampling buffer. Anyway, that should be enough. There's plenty there. Alright, hopefully you can hear everything and the audio's okay. Actually, that just reminds me, I've just got to set something up here. Just give me a second, guys. Need to... where are we? Sorry guys, all I'm trying to do here is... oh, that's a bit weird, hang on. So I'm just changing some audio settings, but I just need to remember that I need to get this all recording, and that's why. I just want to make sure that I've got all this recording for you guys so that you can hear what we're doing. Alright. Alright guys, hopefully all the recording's happening now, so I just want to make sure I capture the 2 channels of audio so that when I go to do the mix down later on for the video that I can get the levels right if I've stuffed anything up. Okay, so well, we don't actually need to save the sample. So the first thing that we're going to have a look at doing is just live mode, just the simplest view of live mode. So let's just put this back to live in. Okay, so that's going in. So I'll set this up. I've set up this live mode effects thing, but I'm going to set it up again for you guys just from scratch, just to see how to make a live mode program from nothing. So let's go to 199, which is default program. We go to edit, and then we go over to key map. And what we want to do, first of all, is set this to stereo. Okay. And then we need to go and we need to find live mode. Oops, that's not going to work. Okay, so what we want to do is we'll set key map 1 to live input left, and this one here can get set to live input right. Right, now these are the special key maps, and what these are is they're linked up to the buffer in the sampling option. So anything that's coming in through live mode will get piped to these 2 key maps. And this is the key to making... oh, pardon me. No, I don't need to sneeze. So this is a key to getting everything running. So we can... okay, so just checking there, we can hear that there's some music playing, and that's the way that live mode works is it only works when you're pressing down keys. So just a summary again, you go into your key map page, turn it to a stereo key map and set left and right. Now you can set them to the mono if you want, if you just want one side of the audio. And you can put them on, you can have these on as many layers as you like or whatever you want to do with them. So they're not just limited to one use, you can stack, I don't know, 10, 20 layers up if you wanted to with all of these, the live mode left and right or left, right, various things, and have different processing on each thing. Now one of the cool things about live mode, right, so you can hear it playing there, but if you play a lower key, so I'm playing the G below middle C, this plays back slower. So it will re-pitch the audio in real time. You play it up faster. And you heard there's a little glitch there. So what happens is that because if you're playing it back faster, of course you can't know what's coming up in front of the sample. So what it does is it will just loop around whatever the sample buffer is. So it will store a bit in the sample buffer and then it will loop around if it gets to the end of those points one way or the other. So if you're playing it faster, if you transpose it up, it will play and then it will loop back to the new start of the buffer, whatever's in there. So the audio data coming into the buffer is like a big pipe, and it'll come in one end and it'll go through and then it'll get discarded out the other end. And you can pick a point in that pipe where you want where you start playing. So it'll play while everything's moving through, and then when it gets to the end it'll actually start at the new section and that'll move through as well. And when you're playing it slower, what happens is that when the buffer gets full again, it will re-trigger that. But if you play middle C, it will play at, it won't do any transposition. And if you want to use the K2600 as an effects unit, middle C is what you want to do. And there's a few tricks that you can do so that you don't have to hold it down. You can, I've got sustain pedals plugged in, but you can press the sustain pedal and hold that down. You can, sorry, let me just swing this around so you can hear me a bit better. Yeah, hopefully you can hear me a little bit better now. What you can then do is, what was I saying? Oh yeah, if you want to use this as an effects unit, you can play middle C. Now you can either hold it down with sustain, or you can set ignore release to on, or you can, in setup mode or in your control setup, you can set it so you've got a foot pedal triggering a note to hold it on, or you can do that in setup mode. So that's a number of ways that you can get this to turn on and stay on. And if I'm using this as an effects unit, I don't need to anymore because I've got a KSP8, but when I did use this as an effects unit, I'd set it up in a setup and have one of the pedals set with a entry mode to turn middle C on, and then when I got out of it, it would turn middle C off. So that setup always was active and playing middle C at the highest velocity. It's also velocity sensitive, so I can play softly, I can play hard. So it's velocity sensitive as well, which is really cool. Okay, so to use this as an effects unit, all you really need to do, I mean, we're just going to leave this algorithm blank. You can put filters in there, so we can, if we want to, for example, we can just put the low pass filter on. We can assign this to the mod wheel, and we can put up some resonance on. Right, so as easy as that, you can just put a filter over. You can do that same with the, if you want a parametric EQ on it, go back to the algorithm. There's a parametric EQ and set it up same thing. You can sweep the frequency, you can make it wider or narrower. So it's a nice easy way to put a simple, if you just want to do EQ, nice simple way to do EQ there. But what I want to do is I'm going to show you how to do this also in effects. So to do it in effects, you need to go to your outputs, make sure that your pair is set. For here we're going to use bus number A or bus letter A, and that's by KDFX A. And then what we then need to do is go into the effect settings, KDFX, and we can either choose a preset studio. So we can go back to 1, which is or if we want to build it from scratch, and it's probably not a bad idea to do this because KDFX on the K2600 is a little bit difficult to find our way around. So let's just go in and just build a simple studio. So we're on effects 1. You can change the bus by hitting the channel bank buttons and going up and down. You'll see that this number changes, and also this number up here changes. These two arrows, if you see these two arrows on the K2600 or the PC3, you can see up in the top margin there. I don't know if it's coming through, but basically it's a left arrow and a right arrow. Anything that says that means that the channel bank button changes it. So it's just a nice little shortcut if you ever forget what the channel bank buttons do. Usually it's layers or zones or effects buses. Okay, so effects bus number 1 is what we want. Now I guess the first thing that we want to look at is the input. Now input A corresponds to KDFX A that we just saw in the output page. So if we had set it to KDFX B, we need to go to B. Okay, now I've got up here, you've got this SPM. Okay, so what this means, this is stereo panning, that's a stereo balance, and that's mono. And then in mono you can actually have left and right, and you can actually have separate effects units for left and right if you want to. So just make sure that's on stereo panning, which is the easiest one. And again here, so the way that KDFX works, it comes in through A, goes through these 2 EQ or filter sections. It then can optionally go out to 2 effects buses before going on to going out here, and you can then send it optionally to the auxiliary bus or the mix bus. Okay, now you generally always want to have the mix bus on, and then the mix bus, it's not actually the mix outputs out of your K2600. The mix bus is actually, you assign it here. So output A, in this case we've got assigned to mix, but you could assign B to mix as well, or all these different parameters. So it can get a little bit confusing, but for this case here we're going to assign output A to the mix bus, and that's the way we're going to do it. So we're going to turn the auxiliary effects off. This usually used for reverb or something, so you can send all 4. You can actually mix a portion of all 4 of the effects buses into the auxiliary bus, or you can channel, or you can serialize them. So you can put, if you want a really big effect, or if you want to use all 7 PAUs in a single great big effects chain, you send it to one of your effects, and then you can send it to the auxiliary after that, and you can get another 3 effects there. So let's go back to our effects bus. Now what we can do here is straight away we can start picking, we can start picking some things, so we can put a flanger on there. And then what we can do is we can add another thing there. So let's pick, I don't know, pick a 3-band enhancer, or don't know if we've got a small compressor. There's a compressor. So we put a compressor on after the flange. And you see here we've run out of effects buses already. So this one's got a size of 2. This one here's also got a size of 2, and you've got 4 total between the 4 effects buses. So we've just used them all up on a single bus. So unlike the PC3, the K2600 is a little bit more limited in the number of effects that it's got, and it is pretty easy to use them up. But the good thing is that the effects are really, really good quality. So it's not all doom and gloom. So that really is how you use this. Really is how you use this as a effects unit. So you can see it's got chorus, and it's as simple as that. Just put whatever effects you want in there, save it. You can send it to the auxiliary bus or whatever. So that's I guess the easiest way to use live mode is if you just want to set this up as an effects unit. So we're going to get out of there. I'm not going to save it. So right, so this is one that I set up before. The same sort of thing. If we go to KDFX on this one, I've got nothing in there. Alright, so same sort of thing. Alright, so that's the simplest way to use it. Now, what we're going to talk about is some of the other really cool things that you can do with it. I guess the easiest one is I've got my default setup so that I have got the arpeggios set to switch 1. So I can turn it on and you can arpeggiate things. Doesn't sound very good at this stage, but let me... It's not very loud. Oh, that's why. Alright, so what I'm going to do to make this sound a little bit better, let's start playing with... Actually, I should go back to the other one because I've already set all this up. Alright, so let's go back to the amp envelope and we can start doing some really cool stuff with this, like... So suddenly, by bringing this envelope time down, you've now got something, you've got essentially a little tiny bit of a key map that keeps changing. So what I might do now, I'm going to change over to just some talking, which is another tutorial I've done earlier. I'm going to go back and play tutorial number 8. So let me just go and get this on the iPod. Where are we? Right, so that's just me talking. So if I just... I'll just turn...
And
so you can hear me talking?
Yeah, so I've basically got...
Alright, so I'm going to take this all back down again and put the arpeggiator back on. And we'll just start off on middle C.
So we're going to go through and have a look at the arpeggios in the PC3. And we're going to try and go through
So suddenly we've got something that's starting to sound a little bit interesting. And we can now go back to the algorithms and we can start messing up with things. Again, we can put a filter on it. Now, it gets more interesting again if we pitch this down. So that's an octave lower. It's 2 octaves lower. So now it's starting to sound a little bit, a little bit different. We're starting to get. But this is just from me talking. I've done just with a filter over it. Already you've got some, like, in terms of oscillator sources, this is just like really good. It's also like these nice dark oscillators that are always changing. So we've got so much variety already. Already you've got some, like, oscillator sources, like really good. It's also like these nice dark oscillators that are always changing. So, and you can go through and you can do all your normal programming. You can put some cool effects on stuff. You can do things and you start playing it. So that's just one nice simple little way just to arpeggiate it through a little bit of processing and put some effects on it. Okay, so that's the first one I wanted to show you. Another one, I'll go up and show you this one here. This is one that I used at a gig that I did many years ago now. It's up on the web on our SoundCloud if you want to find it. It's under the moniker Lost, and it's the Live at the Heidi. But what I've done in this one is, if we just go in and have a look at this key map page, if we look down here at the playback mode and the Alt Control, so these things here work with live mode, which is really cool because you can do some really interesting stutter effects and buffer effects. So let's just have a bit of a play with this.
I'm going to go into the
so you can hear a little bit of, remember when we filled up the buffer before, you can hear still a little bit of that sound playing in the background. So this is I'm just adjusting MIDI 22 now to slider B, and you can hear that you're starting to get things. It's just panning between the speakers. You're getting all sorts of. You get some weird repeating going on. Okay, so that's just another really nice little trick that you can do. Let's just turn this off for a sec. But if you're into glitch music and stuff like that, it's just instant glitch. You just pipe audio into this, start setting up your Alt control as a continuous controller, and what the Alt controller does is it moves the loop points of your audio. Of your sample. Now it does that on a live sample buffer, so it says, right, I'm going to have a really short sample buffer, or I'm going to have a really long sample buffer, and it will try and loop within that. So if you make it really short, that's why you're getting those little tiny snippets of thing. You're getting the old max headroom effect coming in. Alright, so that's another nice little trick that you can do. Again, this one here's got a lot of stuff set up. So if we go back and have a look at the algorithm on this, I've got all pass filters, I've got shapers on here to do some interesting processing to audio in real time. So don't be afraid to use some of these things. If you want to really mess up the audio that's coming in and use it in a creative fashion, don't forget you've got all the power of Vast and all the power of KDFX at your disposal to do some really, really cool things with it. I'll post all these programs up on Kunker as well for you, so you can have a bit of a play around and see some of the stuff that I've used in the past. Now these ones are actually part of the gig. When I played the gig, I had an audio sample coming through. I can't remember what it was, some motivational tape or something. Not that it really mattered, you couldn't recognise it, but it was coming through and it was just getting messed up in real time, and there was all sorts of glitchy effects going on. And that was just using this program and the other ones that I've got here. So if we go to another one, I think one of these, and the other cool thing you can do as well, you can reverse the samples. And this is real time, so you've still got you've got this sample buffer still getting played, but the K2600 is playing it backwards now. So all this stuff you can just do. This just happens in real time. Like I've got the arpeggiator playing at the moment. But you got this ever-changing oscillator that's there, so you just stream audio through this. The way that the K2600 set up is it plays. It's a sample playback machine. It takes a sample, maps it on the key map, plays it through a whole bunch of DSP and then some effects on the end of it. But what live mode lets you do is it lets you take that whatever's coming into that, instead of having a static sample there like a drum or a piano or something, that sample buffer is always changing. There's always new material on it. Every time you press a key, there's going to be something else played there, and that's what makes this so exciting and so much fun. And I think it's a very underrated part of the K2600. People don't use it, they don't exploit it very much. And I think part of the reason for that is it is a little bit difficult to get to work. It's a little bit difficult to understand and get everything set up. I know when I first did it, it took me quite a few goes to get all this working. But once you understand it, it's I mean, as I've shown you here, it's easy to get it set up. It all comes back to having these two key maps set. So again, we'll have a look at this one here. I've got a split algorithm. I've got a cross-modulated amplifier on the actually that's a shaped amp. The exclamation mark means a shaped amp. Got a few filters and whatnot in there. We go to this one here. Again, we've got some more filters. I think I've done the same trick I did the same trick in all of these ones. They've all got I think envelope control on them as well, maybe. Yep, this one's got envelope control on the decay. So
just another way to sort of mix it up. Now you can program, you can replicate all of these presets within settings.
What I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back and just clear out that sample buffer. So let's just go back to the master mode sample. Let's just do a big recording of it again. I'm just going to put some audio in there so you can't hear the parts of that song. So this is what I said before. Sometimes it's a good idea to fill the sample buffer up with the type of material that you're going to be using. So just bear with me for a minute, or we'll just let this sample buffer fill up, and we'll go back and have a bit of a play, so we don't have that sort of music in the background coming through. But yeah, look, hopefully I'm giving you a few ideas about how live mode can be used. If you guys have got any questions there, let me know. There's nothing up there at the moment, but yeah, look, I'd be really keen to answer some questions, or if you've got some ideas or something, or ask me things about ways you can try it or whatever, feel free. Also, you can hit me up at the forums. I guess after you've seen this and seen some of the ways that I've used live mode in the past, you might get some ideas, or you might have some questions. So feel free to ask on Kunker, and I will do my best to answer that. Yeah. All right, so we don't need that. So let's just go back. Set this back to live mode. Alright, so that doesn't sound like me talking. It actually sounds almost like a musical instrument. I can play it, and one of the really good things I found about, and this is by accident, using vocal samples as the sources for live mode is that they have all these gaps. So when you speak, there's silence in between the words that you say, and that just generates so much variety, because sometimes you're not quite sure when a note's going to sound or when it's going to be silent, and it just gives this really organic feel to how things are going to go. You've got the arpeggiator set of your MIDI clock, or synced up to your MIDI clock, so that everything's still in time, in this weird sort of time, but you don't know when a note's going to trigger and what it's going to sound like, and all the things that go around with that. So I really enjoy using live mode. It's a bit of an effort to use live, I must say, because you need to have something that streams, something to play the audio in, like a CD player or an iPod, streaming into your keyboard. I set up, what I also upload with this is the setups. I use some setups, and I didn't use setups. I used some quick access banks to change between these programs quickly. And what I also did is I had the mixer screen. So on these MIDI faders, I had all these set up to control not just these sounds that were playing. I also had the arranger mode in here playing back I'd written some music that went underneath it, and I had the arrange mode playing back all of that stuff, which I could control with the MIDI faders, and I had a foot pedal controller so that I could trigger the next part of the arrangement, and using the buttons up above the sliders, you can mute channels in and out in real time. So it takes a bit of effort to set it all up, but it's a really versatile way of playing live, particularly if you want to get that, I know, just something a little bit edgy, something a little bit glitchy happening in real time. So we'll have a listen to this other one. Can't remember what this one sounds like. It's important for some sync types because it defines how long the work is going to be. Again, that comes from me talking. Like it's just your voice suddenly takes on and becomes a live oscillator. You can have somebody with a microphone singing into these things and doing this in real time if you want to. You can just use it as an effects unit and do the same sort of thing. You can, if you want to get really a little bit crazy, you can plug in one of your outputs back into your sampling inputs and set up some weird loops, or use another sound within the K2600 to trigger the live mode. So that involves grabbing some cables and plugging them into one of the effects or one of the physical outputs and routing that back into the sampling inputs. So yeah, look, it's I guess your imagination is really the limit for what you can do using live mode. Look, I think we're going to probably wrap it up pretty soon, but look, I hope you've got a little bit out of this, and hope you understand live mode a little bit more. So I'll just go back just to remind you again about the important settings for what you need to do. Sampling mode, you go in, set your sources. You can have internal sources here. I think you can use that live mode. I'm not sure, they might have a lock on that. I've never tried it, but I can't see any reason why you couldn't use like the live output out of this thing and feed it back in. It might be noisy, but I don't know. Experimentation. I'm not going to tell you what you shouldn't do with these boxes. But make sure that your mode is set to live in. Make sure you select your input properly, whether it's coax, AES, EBU, or the analog inputs. Good idea just to run a sample through it, so you put something in the buffer so that there's something in the RAM that's actually on the unit. So that's the important thing. Don't forget, if there's something funny going on, particularly with the digital stuff or the DMTI, don't forget to go and check the Master 2 page. And then going back into your programs, the main thing that you want to bear in mind, you can do this mono, or you can do it stereo. So 197, and you need to set these to 197, 198. Now, something I didn't mention If key maps 197 and 198 are not in your K2600, the K2600 did not ship with them by default, you need to go to Kurzweil's website and you need to download the live mode objects and you need to install them. Now when you do that, I'm not sure if you can just load them up. You may need to go back and essentially do a machine reset where you reinstall the objects from scratch, because when you install the objects you sort of need to install them all together. So you may need to go in and actually install the live mode objects and reset your machine to get them on there. But once you've installed them into the Flash, they should be there for good. So you can do machine resets then, and they'll be there until you load the next set of objects, obviously, or the next OS. I don't think that live mode was available in the early OS versions of the K2600. So if you do not have the latest OS, I'm not sure where we're up to. Let's just have a look. K2600 version 4.11 is the latest version available for the K2600. If when you boot your K2600 up it doesn't say 4.11, head over to Kurzweil.com, go to K2600 and go to the download section and update the OS. There's no reason not to update the OS at all. It only brings you better things, less bugs and more stability. Look guys, it's been great getting my K2600 out again and having a bit of a play with it. It still sounds as awesome as I remember it. It's a very different beast to what the PC3 is. Arguably the PC3 is more powerful. K2600 in my opinion has got a better effects architecture, even though it doesn't have the same amount of effects. And it has got there's some better effects algorithms in there than some of the ones in the PC3. Triple mode is a bit of a disaster. I mean, it's good fun. You can do some great stuff with it, but it is nowhere near as versatile and as easy to use as what the Cascade mode on the PC3 is. So, but look, for the amount you can pick these things up nowadays, it's almost criminal how cheap these things are on the second-hand market. Even K2000s, K2000 rack make probably the best sampling drum machine that you're ever going to find. Yeah, fill it up with 64 megs of RAM, fill it up with drum samples, and map them across the keyboard, and yeah, do vast over all of them. It's just great fun. K2600 is even more fun because you've got KDFX. So look, don't underestimate these old beasts. They may be old. They were used a lot by a lot of theatre groups and that for good reason. They can do some amazing stuff. So look, hopefully I've answered a few questions, given you a few ideas, a bit of inspiration of how to use live mode. I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to try and do some more tutorials in the future. Hit me up at Kunka. Let me know any ideas you've got or anything that you'd like me to cover. Either K2600, KSP8 I could probably do if you really want to, if there's anyone out there that has KSP8s that aren't utilising it or are a little bit confused by them, or my K2000. I have got a K2000, but the backlight's gone in it, so it's going to be a bit difficult for me to do stuff. But there's not all that much difference between a K2000 and K2600. It's really only no triple mode, and the effects are different. And setup mode is much more limited in the K2000. Of course, PC3 stuff, I'm happy to do some more tutorials on that. So see you later, guys. Happy vasting. Hope you got something out of this, and I will talk with you all again soon. See you later.